recently I went on Bernard Riley's channel. I joined a panel, and we were talking about this just pearly things drama. And the conversation went a couple of places, abortion, and eventually it went into conservatism. At some point, it went into conservatism, and I started talking about some actual conservative points. I mentioned an actual conservative who I think, if people call themselves conservatives, you should know who this woman is. Black woman conservative, black female conservative, and she, because we were talking about the opportunity zones, and he was talking about how great Trump was. I was like, okay, well, listen, there's a problem with the opportunity zones, and I says you probably didn't see this, but this woman I was telling them about, this black female conservative, went to the White House and told Trump to his face what the problem with those opportunity zones were, and she said that what he intended was great, but the implementation of it would be a problem. Why? Well, she went into why it would be a problem. And actually, that's what we're going to do, because we're actually going to react to her at the White House talking directly to Trump. And I have to tell you, if you don't know who this woman is, her name is Sunny Johnson. She is an absolute, like, she's a treasure. She's a national treasure. And it's amazing that so many people don't. I'm not surprised. I shouldn't know, because when you're that real, they don't want to promote you. When you're that real, they don't want you to shine. So they'll talk about any new face of the day that's pushing tired talking points that have like no relevance, no legitimacy, and no foundation. But when you have Sonny Johnson actually breaking down things based on historical realities, current realities, like it's amazing how clear of the picture you'll see. And the funny thing is that Hosep Jesus also, while he was talking to Just Pearly Things, while he was interviewing her, he name dropped Sonny Johnson several times. And one of the things he said was, because he was talking about how Just Pearly Things, Pearl is just, has talking points. And he said, hey, listen, I used to just have talking points, but I learned so much from Sonny Johnson, because this woman, like I said, just the way she breaks things down, and the fact that she does so much research and provides so much information, so much knowledge in when she's talking about things, it's a sight to see. So now we're going to actually watch her at the White House talking to Trump, because if you haven't seen her in action, you're going to be blown away right now.
The black community is not doing okay. Like, I understand the perspective and the desire to put out this talking point, but it's not, okay? And I can do it in a simplistic way of just saying, what are the first things you did when you first came into the presidency? The very first things you did was, like, remove regulation and taxation at high levels. Think about the black community that has been under Democratic rule, progressive rule for 60 years. How many rules, how many regulations, how many different forms of taxation are on the books in those areas that are preventing our communities from actually being able to see sustainable growth?
I want us to stop this for a second. You see, because it's funny that you have so many people that will talk about how Democrats are the real racists on the right. They'll say that, and then they will ignore the actual effect that these Democratic politicians have on the lives of black people that are, basically under their thumb. Because in these areas where, there's high concentrations of black people, like here in New York, Democrats have just the run of the show, in the absolute run of the show. And in one breath, people can say, oh yeah, Democrats are the real racists, Democrats are horrible. And then when we start talking about systemic racism, they're like, oh no, that's not really a thing. Like, wait a minute, but you've already established that Democrats are in control. You've also said that Democrats are the real racists. So now why is it such a stretch for you to acknowledge that the systems that the Democrats own and operate are acting, and you've already said that you feel the Democrats are racist. So why can you not understand that the systems the Democrats are operating would be racist?
We can keep and get ourselves out of this threat of generational poverty. We are not okay when it comes to things like education, because we are not able to get quality choice into our communities, because we don't have any position or power on our school boards to be able to fight for those things, and not just to get charters in, but to also bring some kind of reformation to the public school system as it stands too. So yes, as well as...
And that's the thing. So a lot of people talk about school choice, and yeah, that's nice, but that's only part of the problem. Because even if you're doing school choice and charters, there's a lot of kids that need help, and there's not going to be enough charters. So what about public school? Public school actually needs to be fixed. That's why when I ran for office, one of the things I was talking about was actually reforming the public school curriculum. Because I'm like, listen, there's no reason it should take 13 years of a kid's life after and you're spending 13 years training a kid, and the only thing they're qualified to do when they get out of these 13 years of education The only thing they're qualified to do is work in fast food or retail. Like, really? This is what it takes 13 years to teach somebody to ask, do they want fries with that? It's ridiculous. And so the schools need to be reformed. And yeah, like my suggestion was, hey, we need not my suggestions, my policies. My policy proposals were we need financial education, economics, business management, entrepreneurship. We need to be teaching these things in K to 12. Why wouldn't we? Do we actually want our kids to succeed?
Criminal justice reform and a lot of other things, as well as health and things we could put down the list. All of these things have been under Democratic control for 60 years, and they are not going to change until we have a Republican Party that is willing to go into these communities and actually offer a choice to these people about how we can do things differently. Because the way it is structured now, the only choice that we get is left or either further left, and we're not getting the opportunity to actually vote on what we look at as conservatism equally applied.
You see, a lot of people will say, oh, you're stuck in the Democratic plantation, and they'll insult black voters, and they'll ignore the fact that, for instance, when I voted back in November, do you know how many slots had only Democrats in them? There was so many slots on that ballot that only had a Democrat. No Republican even bothered to show up. And if you're like me, I wasn't going to vote for either. The other parties, the Democrats had actually in 2020, at the height of the pandemic, the Democrats used that to change the ballot access laws and get rid of other parties. So, like, there's a reason why black people are voting overwhelmingly for Democrats, and it's because there's no other choices presented on the ballot.
The very basic economic principles that we on the right say are significant in our success and seeing the success in our country, those are not being offered at the local level in black communities. So basically, we're asking to grow out of concrete because we don't have the fertile soil in these areas to make everything flourish and bloom the way my generation would like to see it. So I think the numbers and statistics about my generation are not going to be out for 20 years. You're not going to see that we have started to change the dynamic within families. We have started to change the dynamic within marriage. We have started to change a lot of the negative dynamics that are still brought up in statistics today involving us. Our generation is working on making sure those things change. And nobody looks at us and sees the power we have to be effective in making change this generation and not just waiting for the next layer of statistics to come out. So until we can actually get an honest dialogue on the right out into the ether, then you're going to keep on having, the fake news media spread lies because we aren't there giving another choice as to how these things could be done. And it's going to continue to go left if we aren't there giving an option to make it go right. And that's like the biggest thing that we're having trouble with on the right is like understanding how government works. We are a republic. That means local government has the most power over citizens' lives, as well as how to take that and put it into a cohesive message that can be spread to the black community that will already engage upon what we already know. If we looked at like the photos of you before you became president and you were taking pictures with Snoop and you were taking pictures with all the icons of hip hop. You did that, I think, and you can tell me if I'm wrong, but you did that because you saw capitalists, you saw branders, you saw entrepreneurs, you saw people that were willing to take a chance and make things grow.
And that's the thing. You have so many people on the right that will complain about the AOCs and socialism and Marxism, and in the next breath, they'll complain about rappers and the capitalists that are within the black community. And that even goes to the corner boys. That goes to dealers and hustlers out there that are moving weight. They have entrepreneurial spirits. And you'll say, oh, no, they don't. Let me tell you something about this woman who was in business, and she realized, wait a minute, these guys that are running these drug organizations, they're not just what everybody thinks they are. They are actually running corporations. They have structure, they have rules, they have a business strategy, a business mindset. And she said, all we need to do is take these skills and apply it to legitimate businesses, to legal businesses. And she created in fact, she created a couple of nonprofits where she would get dudes who had returned from prison, and were trying to turn their lives around. She said, okay, listen, you did XYZ. Now I want you to put those principles to starting businesses. And cats were going through this program and actually starting legal businesses with the skill sets, and the mindsets they already had from doing their illegal hustles. But there's so many people that refuse to see that potential and that reality.
That is us. That is the black community. And I would like to see a challenge from you to see how many in the black community can put their names on the side of a building coming out of this. If we're really going to reshape and reform the way that we do this, issue that challenge, because that's what we need more now than ever. And we need it to be focused and centric on the black community, not into letting people come in and gentrify areas that are traditionally ours.
And you don't need closed police departments.
No, no, we need the police. But if you take a term, like if you take and look at what happened in Ferguson, because Ferguson is like.
And so one of the things I really have to commend her for is, number one, you see how real she's kept it. But it's amazing just how all of that talking and Trump is stuck on talking points. All of those points she mentioned, all of that realness that she just revealed, and Trump is just stuck on, oh, back to blue. That's all he was stuck on. Just all the other stuff, like he didn't have any comments on it. Like that's why I despise Trump with a passion. Because all of what she told him, and he could have been like, okay, so yeah, this is what we got to do. This sounds great. But he wanted a talking point. He wanted to focus on back to blue and, oh, we need to fund the police. Police need more money. And that's the way he felt until the police were coming after him. Now he has a slightly different perspective. But she's going to show him that there's another side of the police right now. And that's what I'm saying. Like fearless. Like she's going to actually tell him to his face, okay, this is as much as you want to say back to blue, you got to realize there's some problems there.
Like where Black Lives Matter really came out. I ain't gonna say it was born because people will fight about that. But if you go back and you look at Ferguson, the DOJ did a report on Ferguson, and what came out of that report was that the mayor's office was using the police force as a taxation unit. So they were forcing interactions between police and the citizens as a way for them to raise money and bring money into the mayor's office. That was causing over policing. So it is not the fault of the police, nor is the fault of the citizenry what the legislator and the executive branches of city government are putting into legislative practice.
Very good. Well stated. Wayne, what do you think?
You see what I'm saying? Like that was so much realness. Like because there are people that want to ignore the fact that that the government is basically using cops to raise money, whether it be through civil forfeiture or criminal forfeiture, but they're using it, or these, fining people, they're using it just as a means to fund the machine. And Trump wasn't prepared for that realness because he sees it in back to blue or don't. But she kept it 1,000% with him. And that's why I'm telling you, this woman is somebody you need to know, Sonny Johnson. And as it said there, she has a show on Sirius XM. And like, if you listen to her show, you will regularly hear just such fire takes and she'll have fire conversations with people with various types of figures. And you'll just be like, wow, like there's so much that isn't being talked about, but she's one of the individuals that will talk about these things.
Good job. Very good job. Good job. Thank you, Sonny. Appreciate it.
And so it's funny because a bunch of the other people there were just, you're great, Trump. You're so great, awesome, and you're the best, and we need you. But she went there. She's like, okay, no, I have a message that needs to be heard. He needs to hear it. And she gave him the opportunity. And you see, with all of the fire she spit, and she wasn't spitting fire at him, she's spitting fire to him about the situation. And he's just like, but you're back to blue, right? Like, really? All of that's what you came, that's what you're left with. All of that she said, and that's the only thing you can come up with. But that's why I say people like her, she's too real. She's too real, and she's too willing to speak the truth. Like, just here's what it is. And that's why I really want to do this reaction, because I want to make sure more people are aware of her, more people see this, see her, and like you'll see, like I said, Hotep Jesus name dropped her several times in his interview with Just Pearly Things, and there's a bunch of us who listen to her, hear her, see her in action, and we'll regularly be telling you, Amazing Lucas, we'll talk about her. Like, because that's how raw she is. Like, even if she starts breaking down the history of the Republican Party, the history of Black people in the Republican Party, like you've only seen, this is just the tip of the iceberg. So as always, don't forget to hit the thumbs up, like, share, subscribe. And I'm actually going to leave a link because she's also on YouTube. I'll leave a link that you can go check her out because she's got fire content. She'll actually put clips from her radio show, from a Sirius XM show, onto her YouTube channel as well, and you can check some of those out. In fact, I'll probably react to some of that stuff, some of it, because I don't want to, just be using too much of her content. But like I'll talk about some of her content in other videos, and I have plenty more stuff about her in the future. Like I said, as always, don't forget to thumbs up, like, share, subscribe. And I'll see you next time.